God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. Shout out your praise. Oh, we sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung upon that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're on and free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. Here we go. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're on and free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. Shout out your praise. Shout out your praise. Oh, there's joy
Good morning. My name is Dean Ward, and I serve as the lead pastor of the River Church here in the 15068 zip code. And I am so grateful that you have chosen to join in with us here today. Now, you may be asking, where is here? Well, I'm filming as though I was Nanook of the North. No, actually, I have been getting so much flack from all of my friends about how much I love the cold weather. The other day, I think it was Wednesday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. and looked at my phone, and the temperature was negative 10 degrees. Now, that wasn't wind chill. That was just the temperature. I forgot to take a screenshot of that because if I would have posted on Facebook how it's been my happiest day of the year. People ask me, what is it that you love about the cold so much? I don't know how to describe it. I just love the cold. When I would dive for golf balls, we went to a course up in Williamsport after the lakes had frozen, and we broke through about 1.5 inches of ice and dove for a while and then felt like the ice was too thick to dive. So we played on the ice all day long. They had this massive lake, and we had our dry suits on, and we were running across it as we heard the ice cracking and breaking behind us. I mean, it was invigorating. And I just have always had great times. I've never had a bad experience, a bad memory, a bad time in the snow. It's a glorious day in Pittsburgh for me when the Allegheny River freezes over. And it's been so cold for so long that even the Monongahela River, which freezes less frequently, is starting to freeze at the point, and the Allegheny River is totally frozen over. So it's been a glorious time. The weather has been fantastic, and I figured it's not really fair for me to talk about loving the cold weather and loving the snow and loving the ice and filming inside. So I asked my film crew, I cashed in some relational chips today and said, hey, would you mind dressing really warm because we're going to film outside. I'm filming on this little pond on this oasis that we have filmed in several times in the summertime when the foliage is all green and beautiful. And, I mean, how much more beautiful can you get than this with all this snow? I mean, I just am so thrilled. My feet are on the frozen pond. I will not stand on it, though, so I'm going to sit through the whole message. And I am so glad that you are here with us today. So, listen, it's January. I know that spring is coming. As a matter of fact, when it hit 26 degrees outside today, both my wife and I said, man, it felt like spring outside. So if you are faint of heart and if you are not enjoying this cold weather, you just got a little more time to hang on. It will be spring soon. So embrace the frigid, embrace the snow, embrace the cold. And let's have a great January. It's been the best January ever in my book so far. So, hey, we are in part 3 of our series, just simply called The Goat Life, where we are learning to live the greatest of all time life in the red zones of our lives, where we are seeking God's wisdom in these pressure point, in these high intensity red zones of our lives. And we looked at the red zone of friendship and how important it is to choose great friends. We looked at Proverbs for wisdom for the work zone and how important it is to have wisdom in the area of our calling, of our career, of our vocation. Well, today, we're going to look at having wisdom in our family life. So today's message is just simply called The Family Zone. Now, This is kind of the double red zone. I mean, this is the most intense pressure point that most people deal with in their life. People can typically figure out their finances. People can typically figure out their work or at least put up with it. But when it comes to our family, oh, the pressure is on. And this is a beautiful place that we can learn from the wisdom of Solomon. Now, I want to paint a picture that Solomon paints for us as we begin with just two simple verses that describe what a family, what a home is like when it is reaching its potential, when it's the greatest of all time, when it's going very well, when they have built their family on the right foundation. This is how Solomon describes it in Proverbs 23, verses 3 and 4. He says, a house built by wisdom. No, he says a house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. Now, if you understand anything about what how he writes, or not Paul, Solomon, what he writes and what he's saying here, he's not talking about a physical house. He's talking about our homes, our families, those relationships that can either be the source of the most joy in our life or the source of the most heartbreak, or maybe simultaneously a little bit of both. And he wants us to know that when we build our families, our homes on wisdom, when we do that, our home will be filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. So how do we do that? Well, I want to go back just a little bit. I want to go back to the Garden of Eden. Whenever God places Adam and Eve in the garden, he has just very clear instructions to them. Okay? And it's clear what they need to know and what they need to do. First of all, they are called to know God. Scripture says that God would walk with them in the cool of the day. It was a priority for God to know, for them to know who God was. And then God gave them one simple instruction. He gave them a few, like work the land, take care of this beautiful garden I'm placing you in. But he gave them one definitive command. Hey, all the trees in the garden you can eat of, but there's one tree that I don't want you to eat the fruit of, because if you eat the fruit of that, it'll all go south. It'll all go bad. You will surely die. And then God wanted them to obey his command. So God's priority for the life that he wanted them to live was that they would know him, that they would understand his will and command for their life, and that they would follow his command for their life. That they would know him, that they would know his way, and that they would follow his way. Well, Adam and Eve didn't quite do that so well. Well, now I want to fast forward to Deuteronomy. And you say, well, Deuteronomy isn't the Proverbs. We're in the Proverbs. I know, but there's so much wisdom here. Deuteronomy chapter 6 is the loudest, clearest instruction that Moses is giving the people, and he basically is giving them the same command. He says, hey, I want you to know God. I want you to know his will for you. I want you to know his commands. And then I want you to follow them. And then I want you to teach your children to do the same. So if you're up for it, I want to invite you just to take a leisurely fireside rest while I, out in the cold, read Deuteronomy 6 to you. Because it just shows that path to a rich family, that path to a rich life, that path to a rich home. Know God, understand his commands, follow them, and then teach those to your children. So, here we go. Deuteronomy 6. We're going to read verses 1 through 25, okay? You ready? If you don't like how long they are, come in person. I probably won't read them all in person. But here online, we have some time, so let's get comfortable. Here we go. Moses says, "These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you, to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess." Now, they are about to face the hardest opposition they have faced since they left Egypt and Pharaoh's troops are chasing after them. Ahead of them are battles. Ahead of them are conquering the land. Ahead of them is acquiring the land that God has for them. And so Moses and the Lord want them to be ready for this battle, this challenge. And he says, God directed me to teach you to observe these things in the land so that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God as long as you live, by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, O Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. So are you ready? Here it goes. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commands that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. God is telling them through Moses that this is so important. I want you to, have it on your forehead. Write it on the doorframe of your house. Make sure you don't miss this. You know what it's like to have something written on your house, don't you? When my younger brother was about 4 years old, he learned to write out his name. And in our hallway wall, it said, James Ward, James Ward, James Ward in magic marker. He didn't want us to miss it. And that stayed there till he graduated from college. And we didn't miss because it was written on the walls. Well, Moses is saying, hey, I want you to write these commands on the walls of your home. I want them to be part of who you are. Verse 10. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, a land with large and flourishing cities you did not build, houses with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant, then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve only him, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the people around you, for the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God. And his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land if you forget him. Do not put the Lord your God to the test, as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, now here's where it comes, passing it on to your children. In the future, because they heard this in the morning, they heard this in the evening, they made this part of their family's lives, but now he's saying, hey, down the road, when your son asks you, so your son now, who is a grown adult, what is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you? Tell him, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes, the Lord sent signs and wonders, great and terrible, on Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land he promised on oath to our ancestors. The Lord commanded us to obey all the decrees and fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. Verse 25. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he had commanded us, that will be our righteousness. This passage of Scripture, there are 25 verses there. But the synopsis of it, Moses is saying, hey, God wants you to know him, wants you to know his decrees, his commands, his ways. He wants you to live them, and then he wants you to pass them on. Teach others, teach your children, teach your family, and carry on. It's a template. It is a way of living that we have been invited to live since Adam and Eve. Know God, know his decrees, follow his ways, and pass them on. Before we jump into more of the Proverbs that uses the same priorities, I want to ask you just to engage with this video regarding family.
We're all handed down something. It's not like they started with these. They were handed down to them. And probably their daddies didn't know any better. I'm not even sure if they knew what they were doing. Maybe so. But maybe not. It's hard to tell. But my daddy says it doesn't have to stay that way. My daddy says that no matter what you've been handed down, you don't have to keep it. He says that Jesus gives you the power to replace it with something way better. Then you can hand it down to your little boy or your little girl. When daddies do this, it makes us very, very happy. Just one more thing. My daddy told me that the most important message he could teach me was this: it's never too late. He says that it's never too late for anyone to have something better handed down to them. He says that the circle can be closed. And he says that it can happen today.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope you'll enjoy this. I'm filming here in front of the snow-covered K, a relic from years gone by of the Kmart that was in the plaza in New Kensington, where now Aldi is, and Harbor Freight, that whole plaza, and my kids' most excited new addition to it, no, not Starbucks, but Wingstop is going in where the family video used to be. So I wanted to give you just a glimpse of this glorious, magnificent, huge K from Kmart. So I just want to let you know and remind you of what I believe you already know, that your family, it is the most important place. It is the first institution that God ordained at the beginning of time when he told Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply. Family is at the center of our culture and at the center of our lives, which makes it the place that we need the most wisdom in our family relationships. It's the red zone of all red zones. I read this quote that said that most people build their families as a reflection of the one they grew up in, or as a rejection of the family they grew up in, or a mixture of the two. What would you tell people as they get ready to head into the biggest red zone of their life? What would you tell them to pay attention to? I would encourage them with the same thing that God did with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and Moses did to the children of Israel as they were about to go face their biggest challenges in life, fighting the battles to acquire the promised land. I would tell you, know God personally. Know his ways. Know his will for you. Know his scripture. I would tell you then to follow his ways, to live out his ways, and then to teach his ways. If you have children, to teach his ways to your children. If you don't have children, teach his ways to those who will listen. Look to the Lord. I would tell you to look to the Lord, because he's the one that's going to fight the battles for you. When they were heading into the promised land, he said, look to me. I'll go before you. I will fight your battles. But whenever they went their own way and didn't follow his commands, it all went south. You have to keep looking to the Lord for your victory and focus. Teach these things morning and night to your family. The reality is, I must look to God and keep him first. Then I must listen to his instructions and follow them, and then teach them to our children. A wise father passing on great wisdom to his son followed the same format. He said, son, do not forget God's teaching and instructions. These are the directions on how to navigate life. Family is at the core. This is where we live. In our families, we must know the one to look to and the way to go. For us and our families and life, know who you follow and walk in his teachings and walk in his ways. Proverbs says, look to God. Don't forget the things God has taught you, and then walk in this way. So, to give us a glimpse, a nugget of Solomon's wisdom to his son of the same teaching, I want to read Proverbs chapter 2, the first 11 verses. He says, my son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding, indeed, if you call out for insight and cry aloud for understanding, and if you look for it as for silver and search for it as for hidden treasure, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He holds success in store for the upright. He is a shield to those whose walk is blameless. For he guards the course of the just and protects the way of his faithful ones. Then you will understand what is right and just and fair, every good path. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will protect you, and understanding will guard you. Then you will understand what is right and just and fair. And listen to this, every good path. Solomon wants us to walk in every good path, the path of the Lord. Proverbs 14:26. How can you do this? How can you get his wisdom? Keep your eyes on God. Heed his commands. Heed his wisdom. And then teach this to your children. Proverbs 14:26, whoever fears the Lord has a secure fortress. For their children, it will be a refuge. Proverbs 14:1, the wise woman builds her house, but with her own hands, the foolish one tears hers down. Proverbs 24:30 through 34. I love this one. You'll remember a couple of these verses from last week. I went past the field of a sluggard, past the vineyard of someone who had no sense. Thorns had come up everywhere. The ground was covered with weeds, and the stone wall was in ruins. I applied my heart to what I observed and learned a lesson from what I saw. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little of folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief, and scarcity like an armed man. So again, may I remind us of the two verses in Proverbs we began with, 24:3 and 4. A house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. Through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches and valuables. Wisdom builds the house, and it is filled with many good things. It is filled with love and forgiveness. Love, Scripture says, covers a multitude of sins. And this is so needed in families because there's a multitude of sins that goes on in a family. I would be embarrassed to know the number of times I apologized to my 4 children over the years and asked for their forgiveness because of a way that I had reacted badly or acted poorly. And I just had to apologize and ask for their forgiveness. There's such a need for forgiveness in our families. the wisdom of love and forgiveness. A family that has this is rich. Love. In your family, have love. This is important when we talk about families, because families, it's a battle zone, man. The evil one is after your marriage. The evil one is after your home. The evil one is after your children. And so, guard yourself by knowing God, knowing His ways, living His ways, and then teaching your children His ways. Dave Ramsey has said, what happens in your house matters more than what happens in the White House. What happens in your house is so important. There is a battle, and Moses is telling them how to live in the land. Solomon, there is a battle, and Solomon is telling them how to thrive in the land. Our families are a battleground. What are some of the treasures living in the house of a family that seeks God and follows His ways? Forgiveness, love, safety. Proverbs 14:26 that I just read talks about the refuge that our children will find in our homes. Honoring your father and mother in this house, it's one of the treasures that's there. So, very practically speaking, how can parents do this? How can parents not only live the way, know the way, live the way, and teach their children the way? First of all, you can bring them to church. Having that discipline every week, every midweek, set aside to come to church together as a family shows the priority that it is. It shows when you engage in it, it's a priority to you and will and can better become a priority to them. The other night we met for those that we are baptizing today at our church, and there was a single mom there talking about how much shame and guilt she felt from her old church when she was a single mom. And she started coming to our church when her daughter was 2. And her daughter is now 9 years old, and we are baptizing her this Sunday. And when I asked this young 9-year-old girl why she wanted to get baptized, she goes, well, I've been growing in God, and I've gotten to know who He is, and I love Him, but I want even more of God in my life. I want Him to be a more important part in my life, and I want to honor my love for Him by being baptized. When this little 9-year-old girl said this, I started to weep inside my heart. I said to the mother as she was leaving, you have done a great job raising your daughter. She says, you have no idea how much that means coming from you. When I closed the church door behind her, I just wept. Because this mom, she got it right. She brought her daughter for 7 years to a safe place, to a church home, to a church that felt like home. Her mother has grown, and the daughter has grown. Toby Max sings a song that has a line that says, nobody is too lost to be found. In saying all of this, the Bible is filled with families that didn't get it right, and yet God redeemed them. There's no family that is too lost, too broken to be healed, to start again, to get on the right track. So may your family zone follow God's plan of knowing God, knowing His desires for you, His teachings, His ways, living His teachings, His ways, and then raising up your children, showing them and teaching them to do the same. May you thrive in the family zone of your life. God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining in with us. It's not even cold out here. It's in the mid-20s, but I am eating this up and so grateful to be able to share not only this message with you, but all this glorious snow and January weather. God bless you all. Have a great week. I can't wait till I get to see you again. God bless.